The advanced email template editor distinguishes itself from the basic editor by being used to create exceptional marketing emails, marketing campaigns, and even refining your normal email customer communications. Ultimately, how well you're able to maximize this module is entirely dependent on three things. Number one, your own experience as a marketer. Number two, your experience or history with similar software. And number three, how much time you spend learning and playing in the platform. The level of complexity for these type of emails varies from basic emails to intermediate emails and even more advanced templates. Today, I'm going to show you how to create the advanced template that you see on screen. Let's get started. Let's go ahead and put in the name of this template to help us find it later. We'll do the same thing and place it in a category, and then we can select a default CC or BCC address that'll receive this email every time it's sent. Now we'll open up the advanced editor and input the subject line of the customer's email. When creating an email, there are basically three main components: the content, blocks, and body. The content is the objects that you'll insert into the email. For example, you can add columns to divide the content into multiple sections. If you say wanted 2 columns or 3 columns for 3 buttons, for example, you can do so by adding columns. In these columns, you can then add content like buttons, dividers, images, timers, and all the like. Next, we can add more blocks in the block section, and then once again, divide these blocks into additional columns or add more blocks by clicking on the plus icon. Next, in the body section, you'll define the general characteristics of your email, like the default text color, background color, content width, the content alignment, and font family. Here, I recommend setting the content width to 650 to get started. Next, we'll start creating the email. Here, as you can see in the original email, there are basically 9 content blocks. We'll go ahead and add 8 content blocks. Here's how those blocks look in full screen. Next, we'll modify the width of the content. As we mentioned earlier, 650 is a nice way to get started and usually looks good on most devices. Here, we'll set the default link color to gray for the unsubscribe link at the bottom. Let's go ahead and start by adding content. We'll add the top header image that you saw in the original email. We'll upload that from our computer. Now you'll notice that the image has padding around the image. We can go ahead and remove that in the general section and delete the padding to make the image fit the entire width of the email. In the image, you can also define the default URL if somebody were to click on it. You can also define what happens if this is opened in a new tab or in the same tab. Next, we'll add a divider. We can slide the divider into the section. We'll add some width to the line. We'll remove the padding, but this time we want some padding on the top. Then we'll go and set the background color to black to reflect the top image again. And finally, we'll edit the border to reflect green, as we saw in the previous email. In this next section, we'll once again add the image of the vehicle from the previous email. We'll also remove the padding. In this next section, we're going to put the content that we saw earlier, the timer. The timer can also be a link. You can set a custom date, for example, for the end of a promotion, and then modify the timer with the time zone, the language, as well as the color of the background, the digits, and the labels. You can also modify the font size, the label size, and the label font, and then finally also adjust the padding at the bottom. In this section, there are 2 text blocks. We'll need to divide this column into 2. Then we'll import the text content into each section. Here you can obviously modify the text with all the normal characteristics, the alignment, font size, font, as well as bold, underlines, and italics. Here you can also use custom attributes just like you can in a regular email template. Now we'll do the same for the second block. This next section is another text block. We'll go and modify the text content as we've just seen, as well as the padding. Underneath the text, we'll have another divider. This one will be a little bit thicker, and we'll simply modify the padding so that it doesn't reach the width of the email. Another text block underneath the divider. This one will modify the color, size, and placement of the text. And underneath this text block, we'll add a button. Here you can see you can place the button in another section or have it in the same section. We'll modify the text on the button to say "See Offer," change the color, the size of the button, the padding of the button, and also define a colored border for this button. You can also modify the roundness of the button. It is completely customizable. Let's go ahead and set a link for this button. Once again, you can define whether or not it opens in the same or a new tab. For mobile users, you can also define what this button does. Does it open a website, send an email, call, things like that. In this next section, the background of the text is black, so we'll go and automatically set the background color to black. We'll then add the text box and modify the text as we just saw before. We'll then add another divider as seen in the previous email and modify the padding to reflect the same color on the background of the divider. This next section contains the social media links for this email. We'll go ahead and modify the content background for this section to also be black. We'll then modify the background color for each individual column. Seeing as we want the icons to be centered in the middle, we need to add white space on the outside of the main columns. So we'll add extra columns to make the three main social media icons be centered. So we'll add 7 columns in total. We'll then modify the background color for all the 7 columns. Then we'll slide in the images for the social media icons. And then we'll upload those images. You can then once again define the links for all of these images. Finally, the last component of the email is the unsubscribe button, which is absolutely necessary when using the advanced editor. Here we'll slide in the unsubscribe button, we'll center the text, and then we'll modify the background color to also be black. I strongly recommend adding an unsubscribe button at the beginning of your email to be able to save your work in progress. Here's how the email looks on the computer. Let's take a look at it on mobile. You'll notice the social media icons are stacked above one another. Let's go ahead and click on this column, and we'll have a new option when in the mobile tab, hide on mobile and do not stack on mobile. Here we'll select do not stack on mobile, and you'll notice the white space is exaggerated here, but once we visualize the email with the preview button here on the bottom left, you'll notice that the email is okay. You can visualize your email by screen type, like computer, tablet, for example, but you can also set an individual width specific to a device. So there you have it. Before we finish, I'd like to strongly recommend testing this email yourself by sending it to various devices and email services like Gmail or Outlook, for example. Not all devices and services will render this email exactly the same way. So to try to get a more uniform email for everybody, the best way to do that is by testing. Another thing to consider is potentially dark mode. That may also affect the readability of your email. And finally, once again, the more time that you spend in this module, the better you'll be at using it.